You can find a hope on different places, you know? Even if you think that you lost everything, suddenly you can find, for example, hope in some place where you didn't expect that you will find it.
Чому на світі так багато зла, 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 зла? Чому на світі так багато 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 зла? Людина
Pussy Riot from the beginning, and I believe that now it is the same, is a feminist collective, or let's say now more a movement, fighting against dictatorship of Vladimir Putin. System really pretends to have a serious face. That's how they want a fear to go inside you and paralyze you. And we believe that the smile and the humor breaks this fear. And it works somehow. So we've been in prison because of the punk prayer, because of the action which we've done in the Cathedral of Christ the Savior just before the elections, against the combination of Putin's so-called presidency blessed by so-called God from the Patriarch Kirill, who is a KGB agent. And we've done it in very funny way. We were the people who made fun of the serious idea of saint presidency.
Черные рясы, золотые погоны, все прихожане ползут на поклоны, призрак свободы на небесах. И правда отправится в мир годах. Глубоко губей, склоны седой, ведет протестующих седов конвой. Самого святейшего не оскорбишь. Женщинам нужно рожать и любить. Страсть, страсть, страсть Господня, страсть, страсть, страсть Господня, страсть, страсть, страсть Господня, страсть, страсть, страсть Господня.
And we are women. So that's why this combination really drove them mad, because it's completely opposite to the thing how they see the role of women. All the Soviet Union dictators, they just oppressed women. We didn't have like a first lady who was a role model for girls, except the wife of Gorbachev, who actually made perestroika and a big change. And this is a disaster, because only by watching this small thing, you can realize the situation in the country. You cannot have a fair situation, a democracy in the country when women are oppressed. One of the ideas of making this exhibition and this book is to show the road to hell, because, you know, the war censorship, the almost totalitarian regime didn't happen in one moment. That was a way, and we are showing the details of this way. You're right, in 2012, which was not ideal and not democratic, were much better than now, because now I believe the whole world realized what the Putin regime is. Putin is in power by fact for 23 years. He had for one small period of 4 years puppet Medvedev, but Medvedev was fully controlled by Putin and it's not presidency. So 23 years is impossible. I mean, it's possible, but it's crazy shit. He did a lot with the country, which I think, yeah. Let's start with 2012.
К Кремлю идет восставшая колонна в ФСБшных кабинетах. Взрываются окна. Суки, суд за красными стенами. Райт объявляет аборт в системе. Однако на рассвете не стану возражать. За нашу свободу хлыстом карать. Святая Мадонна научит нас драться. Феминисткам Магдалена пошла на демонстрацию. Бунт России! Харизма протеста! Бунт России! Путин достал! Бунт России! Мы существуем! Бунт России! Riot! Riot! Выйди на улицу!
Pussy Riot started just before the president elections, or let's call them so-called president elections. So elections supposed to be in 2012, and that's supposed to be the Putin's third term. When people, majority of the people, especially in Moscow and St. Petersburg, realized that he will be a president again, they start to protest. There were massive protests around Russia. Only in Moscow there were 100,000 people on the streets. And that was the time when Pussy Riot were born. We just been a part of this big protest, doing it on different way, but also participating the huge rallies which happened that time. And then there will be no surprise. Putin became a president for the third time and turned Russia into a nightmare. We've been imprisoned and we've been kind of pioneers on this cause. We've been first artists, activists imprisoned because of our position and words and action. But then they start to imprison people more. So there is a Bolotnaya case, the first big case, which they opened in 2012 against just a peaceful people who went to peaceful demonstration in the center of the city.
Путин зажигает костры революции! Ему скучно и страшно с людьми в тишине! Налекать на него, то гнилая рябина! Что не срок много лет, но предмет для полюций! Страна идет, на улице всех растет! Страна идет, прощаться с режимом! Страна идет, перелез и углерод! А Путин идет, прощаться с народом! Арестуй по 6 мая весь город! 7 лет тому, дай 18! Запрети кричать, клеветать и гулять! Возвести в жены батьку Лукашенко!
Then they start to writing new repressive laws, did not use them immediately, but they start to write them. Then 2014 appeared, the year of annexation of Crimea. And that was the point of no return. You cannot just take the territory of other country without circumstances. So sanctions appeared. There were very slight sanctions, completely not comparable with the situation, and this is one of the biggest mistakes. Putin's regime started to use the late Soviet Union rhetorics, the rhetorics of Brezhnev time, rhetorics of Cold War. They start to call us all of us, not only Pussy Riot, but all of the people who've been against them, and enemies of the state, enemies of the people. These terms were not used before in 2012. That time we've been just hooligans or bitches, witches, whatever, not enemies of the state. Then they started physical violence. They start to sponsor and to activate these Nazi groups who start to beat oppositioners around the country.
Нахуй идите отсюда, все, блядь, из нашего... Вон из города, блядь! Суки ебучие, блядь! Нахуй из города, блядь! Эй!
Мы сейчас милицию будем. Вы чё?
Рыкни, сука! Вон эти из города, сказано. Нехуй вам тут делать, понятно? Ой, что сюда? Приезжали, блядь! Охрана! Охрана!
Next year, just in the months in February, after the annexation of Crimea, they shot the main oppositional leader, Boris Nemtsov, just in the front of Kremlin walls, in the heart of Moscow. Poisoning started. Vladimir Karamurza was poisoned, 2015 as well. The whole picture just felt different. And all of the people who've been inside the country totally got it. So immigration started. 2014, 15, people were leaving. That was not, a living with a statement or something like this. They just packed and left. Who can? Because majority of Russians, they cannot do it. Because they don't have an opportunity, enough money, and yeah. So then, 2016, Trump became a president of United States and took all the attention of the whole world to his person. At the same time, FSB, which is KGB, they continued to open the new cases more and more and more and more, and articulate that they are the owners. They are who decide. They are the power. And that was somehow not covered at all. So they started to create a crazy shit with monarchy, like to advertise monarchy a lot inside the country. They started to imprison people for nothing, just for taking a chat in McDonald's. They start constantly torture people. All these laws which were created before start to work. So people start to be named as foreign agents, unwanted organizations, etc. If people were not following the rules, the case opened. Then the World Cup, the world event, started in 2018 when the things were already very bad.
Дорогой друг, ты, наверное, знаешь о том, что в России нет правового государства, и любой полицейский может просто так ворваться в твою жизнь.
Чемпионат мира прекрасный. Показал, какими могут быть полицейские в России, но что будет, когда он закончится?
Вывод и выход один. Нужно бороться за то, чтобы в России перестали фабриковать уголовные дела и арестовывать людей просто так.
А чтобы это произошло, нужна еще такая штука под названием политическая конкуренция. Возможность для всех участвовать в жизни страны и избираться.
Все это очень простые штуки. Но ты должен для себя решить, что именно ты можешь сделать, чтобы твоя Россия стала гораздо прекраснее.
И еще вот что. Сегодня 11 лет со смерти поэта Пригова. А он вошел в русскую культуру циклом стихов про милиционера. Почитай про него.
Ну, а нас же сейчас ждут на футболе, где нам надо рассказать всем про небесного милиционера и про милиционера земного.
Наручники. Наручники мне сюда, на обоих. Ты, тварь, кто такая? Фамилия, имя, отчество. Боря, экипаж 3, 5, 4, Арктика 5. Решили Россию насрать?
Нет, мы за Россию только.
Да?
Мы за Россию.
А вы знаете, что за это Россия будет штрафные санкции платить ФИФА?
Почему?
Потрачено!
Мы за Россию исключительно, так же, как вы, если вы за Россию.
Вы Россию подставили по
Мы не
штрафные
подставили
санкции.
Россию, неправда.
Ну что, нормально?
Нормально.
Где вы форму взяли?
Мы черные.
Что?
На прокат.
На прокат? И иногда жалею, что сейчас не 37 год. Просто иногда жалею. Обосрали Россию, да?
Да мы не обостряли Россию, у нас нет цели. Мы, наоборот,
Что
за
цели
Россию.
нет?
Также, если вы за Россию...
Вы штрафные
то мы тоже
санкции
за Россию.
какие сейчас наголосят на нас?
So Putin prolonged his presidency from 4 years to 6 on the third term. So next elections 2018. Nobody even noticed that there were elections. Like in the West, for example, nobody. It was so obvious. There was, of course, a protest in Moscow. Of course, people been beaten. Of course. And then they just start to build the physical repression situation very fast. Like in 2019, there was not possible already to have massive demonstrations. There were single demonstrations. Next year, they changed the constitution, so they gave Putin an opportunity to rule for forever.
Я Маша. А это новая конституция Российской Федерации. В ней уже до всякого голосования написано, что Путин будет править нами вечно. Под видом поправок нам впаривают узаконивание диктатуры и уход от демократии. Я против диктатуры в России. Я против коррупции и воровства чиновников. Я против ментов, которые бьют нас на мирных демонстрациях. Я против пропагандистов, которые выставляют нас врагами народа. Я против пыток. Я против суда, управляемого напрямую из администрации президента. Я против того, чтобы традиции нашей страны были основаны на дискриминации. Я против поправок. И поэтому...
And then in 2021, they actually killed the thing. They imprisoned physically those who they think are dangerous. They collected guns and troops in the border with Ukraine at the same time, and next year they started the war.
Хороший кап.
I was speaking in different parliaments. I was doing hundreds of interviews. I was talking with politicians, with just random usual people, and not only me, not only Pussy Riot, a lot of Russian oppositioners were warning that this regime is dangerous. It's going worse and worse, and it's not the people with whom you should deal with. This is totally correct that the West was not boycotting Putin's event, and this is completely unfair on, like, for the people who've been imprisoned that time at least. But this already happened, and this is a big mistake. This is something which led the whole Europe into the situation of watching the war every day online. And somehow that was the situation when business interests became more important than human lives.
Практика машинного труда страной освоена едва ли успешно. Пилу производства груба. Бываю все чаще, не знаю местными. Опять текут низовые активисты, наполняют ее жизнью и просят банкрот. МЧС расставил уколкой ангару снежный газпром. Баллады пропаганды, баллады пропаганды.
I don't want to judge anyone, but I want to show things how they are, and maybe it will change something, because I just don't believe that judging works. I believe that voice of truth works, and truth itself works. I don't know. I mean, there are several rooms here for people who probably did not understand even now, what is going on. And maybe these rooms will change something. And even if it will be like a change of several people, it's already a lot, because you don't know where it will go afterwards. It's like this, but it's hard conversation, because I was not isolated just protesting in Russia. I was going abroad, I was talking with people here, and actually I was shouting and a lot of people done the same. And yeah, it's like this.
Ваше равнодушие.
Запад 10 лет поставляет ему оружие. Именем Российской Федерации.
Нищета, убийства, приговоры, санкции. Инакомыслие. Независимое мнение.
Откуда на Беларусь готовилось нападение?
Грохнут не беда, отвалят бабла.
Для кого война, а для нас мать родна.
Все, дочка, мама любит тебя пока. Красные ногти в земле, рука.
Okay, hope. Let me think for 1 minute. On the year of 2021, there was already 100,000 people on the streets. When Alexei Navalny came back from Germany, where he was killed after the poisoning, there were already no so big crowd as 10 years before. So, situation just before the war already been terrible, actually. And since the full-scale invasion, I believe that the world should unite and protect Ukraine, which was somehow articulated, but I believe it's a bit not enough. And I'm here for supporting Ukraine, and I'm here for helping Ukraine. We're doing that with our concerts. We're sending money to Ukrainian hospital. I have no idea, is it fair or not, but I think that the main focus now should be on them. I don't have an experience of my house being bombed. My parents are alive. I don't have a situation when my friends are dying constantly because of protection of my country. My experience is uncomparable. I have friends in Ukraine. I'm talking with them. And I just cannot share all the emotions which I feel, because it's a constant shame. It's a constant dark shame, which is you cannot kind of go out of. And I don't want Putin to win Ukraine.
Дорогая сестра, мы здесь без креста. Чудовищная весна решила настать. Измененная, ненужная конституция. Нам пора совершить революцию. Пусть Москва горит, мир на крови. Это не смыть, нечем крыть. Дохуя земли, но забрали Крым, прости. Хотя это не простить. Мама, я в плену, не смотри телевизор. Мама, здесь нет никаких нацистов. Мама, почему войну называют операцией специалистов? Мама, я в плену, не смотри телевизор. Мама, здесь нет никаких нацистов. Мама, почему войну называют операцией специалистов?
Украина, я тебя люблю.
You definitely can fight the dictatorship and authoritarian regime with your brain, using colors which are opposite to gray, which they're providing, with your voice, which can be as loud as you want. And I just want to tell you one story. We had this exhibition first in Iceland. So I was doing tours around for local people, many times going through the exhibition, showing people like things. And each time I see the Lubyanka, the main KGB building, being attacked by paper planes, I'm kind of thinking like, are the paper planes enough? Is it enough for them? Paper planes cannot stop torturing and murders, right? So during the war, I really believe that the army needs to be supported. But we used what we had. We had just that. We've been naked in the front of the system, but we did something. So now I really believe that this is the moment for the world to do what we all can with the resources which the world have.
Право. Право. Ну, сказали день рождения Путина, сказали, нужно украсить.
Что украсть, что увешать? Уберите, это согласовано с министерством?
Да. Это право согласовано. Конечно, наше право послало.
Снимите сейчас, прямо снимите
флаг. Нет, мы сейчас все предоставим вам. У нас как бы все начальника.
Сейчас снимите.
Мы не можем снять, нас послали, как бы, право
послало. Что значит не можете? Что значит не можете снять? Документы мне предоставьте.
Да, это право, у нас нет документов.
I don't think that I have any specific courage, which is different from others. Me personally and Pussy Riot were reacted on injustice. And when we've seen that something is unfair, we reacted. That was step by step. That wasn't a big plan of huge resistance. Of course, revolution is the thing which lives in the heart. It's definitely like that. But all actions and situations were not planned. We just been reacting on the situation in the country, on injustice in the country and current events.
Мы вас не простим и растопчем останки. Сгорит красиво башня Останкина.
Of course, I was thinking about the context, but I was not thinking that, that's a reason to stop. Because, the fear is the thing which can paralyze you anywhere. For example, we have enough amount of cases now in 2023 of journalists being poisoned here in Europe. So it's not, and if they poison journalists, of course they can poison anyone who are just loudly fighting against them here. So it's a reason to stop? No, I don't think so.